commencing the meeting. Thank you, Zoom. So happy to see everyone here. This is a really great group. There are a few names here who we haven't seen in a while, so it's really good to see you all. So we're going to be sharing today with you some of the updates that have happened lately with the survey, with focus groups, and key informant interviews. We have quite a few GC details to share with you, so we're happy that you can make it. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I think Emily is first. Am I correct, Lauren? Go ahead and kick it off to my colleague, Emily, and then I will be sharing about community engagement.
Great, thank you, Tanisha. So I get to give you an update on the survey. It's not much of an update, but it's good news. The deadline to have the surveys turned in was April 25th. So that's when we asked people to return them to us. We'll of course keep accepting them for another week or two. Currently we have 235 surveys in hand. Those are the ones I've picked up from the post office. Our postage bill indicates that we paid for over 500 surveys to be returned to us. And this is sort of expected. There's generally a delay between when we receive the billing and when we actually receive the release of our business reply mail. So this is all good news. It means that we have over 500 surveys that we'll be able to likely include in our sample. And we were hoping for 430. That 430 was the magic number that we needed in order to generalize the survey results to the general population. So all good news. And the next time we meet, we'll probably be able to start to give you some details, some very basic analysis of what we found in the survey. And so that is my update for today, and I'll turn it back to Tanisha.
Thank you, Emily. All right, so we're going to move over to community engagement. Lori, am I able to share my screen really quickly for this slide that I just added?
You should be able to. I'll stop sharing if you want to share your screen. That should be good.
Either that, or you can use the slide with the new, use the slides with the new slide I just added. Sorry, I was adding an extra slide because we have quite a few people who are a part of the advisory committee who have been extremely helpful for community engagement. And we wanted to make sure that we recognized you all with a fancy slide with your name on it. So I wanted to add that and make sure that I publicly said thank you to all of you. This has been a very detailed process, involved process, and quite a few of you have been super duper helpful in that process. So I'm going to give Lauren a minute to pull that back up and we will continue on.
Okay, let's see.
Thank you, Lauren. Awesome. Okay, the words are a little bit small because I could not figure out how to make this 2 columns, but I wanted to thank the following people for all of your help throughout this process: Tony, Dave, Sean, Allison and Trish, Angelina and Marianne, Pastor Laura, David Sweatkiss, Marilee Santiago, Aniko, Emmy Hutchinson, Michelle Nocta, Leslie Krogman, and Laura Carboni. All of you have been super duper helpful in this process with helping with recruitment, with doing interviews for us, with helping us figure out who to recruit, how to reach people, and just wanted to say thank you. I really appreciate the labor that you all have put in with us. It's helped to make this a very successful process so far. Quite a few of you have given our team compliments, but I wanted to let you all know, after doing these types of projects a few times now, the project is only as good as the folks that we're working with. And you all have made this a very easy process. You've been super helpful, very passionate, and very involved. And that's really important. I think that that will help make all the difference in your action plan moving forward. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. And please continue to do the things that you've been doing. I think it'll really, really make the difference moving forward. I'll take the next slide, Lauren. Thank you. Okay, so we have quite a few updates. I know this is a lot. This goes against everything within the communication side of me. You should never make a slide like this, but I did because people need words. So for our key informant interviews, we have completed 7 interviews. A couple of you here have actually signed up or are planning to do one for us. One of them are scheduled for next week. We've already done our bus tour a couple weeks ago, actually. We're in the process of scheduling all of our 12 focus groups. We've already completed one, which was the Lakewood Family CAC. We have quite a few scheduled, actually 6 of them. Tomorrow we have our disabilities and or chronic conditions. It's going to be virtual. With that one, the recruitment has been a little bit low in terms of people who've been able to register. And I think it's mostly just because just the vulnerabilities that some of the members of the group have. So I wanted to let you all know that we do have someone who's coming tomorrow who has agreed to help us look into more recruitment to try and do another focus group for a few more people. And that will probably be sometime in May or June. The low income renters group is scheduled for May 20th at 1 o'clock. It'll be at the Lakewood Community Services Center. Wanted to make sure that I put a note here. We decided to make this low income instead of just renters because that is a group that we have trouble hearing from. And want to thank Angelina, Marianne, and Trish Rooney, as well as Allison for helping with the recruitment for that. We do plan at the community open houses to maybe try and find some way to get more information from other residents and renters. But because this is such a vulnerable population, we wanted to make sure that we had a group specifically for them. And we already have 8 people recruited for that. So thank you for everyone who's been helping with that group. For the homelessness group, that one is scheduled for May 14th at 6 o'clock. Pastor Jasel has been helping, and Jonathan Gray from Trials of Hope. They work together with Lakewood United Methodist Church on a congregate meal that they have. So we'll be recruiting through that meal and hoping that as many people as possible can come. We actually will be doing 3 breakout groups that night. One with individuals who are currently unhoused, one with those who have transitioned into more permanent housing, and also for the volunteers that work with this population. I think that will give us a very kind of mixed response so that we're able to see this issue from different lenses. So very excited about that group. The LGBTQIA+ group has also been scheduled for May 19th. We have 4 recruits so far. Vanessa has been working really, really hard on that group, as well as the Latinx group, which is scheduled for May 17th. Right now, we have just 1 recruit for that, but she's been working hard, planning to go to La Plaza to try and recruit there. She's connected with quite a few people in the community to try and be able to recruit for both of these groups. So thank you, Vanessa. We have Natasha, who's been helping with the People of Color group. Planning is underway with Angelina for that group. We have a tentative date in June to meet with the Black Caucus for a focus group. So thank you, Angelina, for helping to plan with that. And I want to make sure that I shout out Rebecca. She's been helping with the Disabilities and Chronic Conditions group and also has been helping to plan our community-wide open houses. She's scoping out some locations today. So thank you for that. All of the groups in gray that you see are those that are currently underway, or we're planning some meetings for those very soon to kind of plan out our recruitment. So older adults, Tony and Dave have been working to formulate that group. Thank you guys for that. Youth and adolescents, we want to thank Aniko and Emmy Hutchinson, who's on the call today, who've been helping us to try and plan that with Lauren and Emily. Refugees, Tony has been working very hard with Merritt Walters to try and find some recruits for that group as well. For the business community group, we have a planning meeting on May 4th. So looking forward to trying to pull people, maybe with the Chamber of Commerce. We are working with Patty Ryan, Ian Andrews, and Vince Williams on that. And thank you, Allison, for helping us to connect with them. And lastly, Natasha is also helping us meet with Jess Parker to make plans for the family focus group. So there's a lot of planning underway. Things have been very busy, and we've been making some really, really great progress. So thank you to everyone who has contributed to this in one way or another. And I wanted to say thank you for Michelle. She's been helping a lot with disabilities and our chronic conditions. Can I have the next slide, Lauren? Thank you. So we do need your help. I'm going to give Vanessa the floor to kind of make an ask of you all. The Latinx and LGBTQIA+ group, Vanessa has been working her tail off to network with people in the community. But we really wanted to make sure that we take advantage of the advisory committee to see if you all know of any additional contacts, events, or suggestions for recruitment. So I'll let Vanessa have the floor for a moment.
Hi, y'all. So yeah, thank you, Tanisha. I've been able to make some contacts with people in the community regarding both of these groups, and I was able to go to an event that usually happens on Wednesdays, thanks to Marilee's contact, Marisol Martinez. last Wednesday at the salsa night that they usually do at the symposium. But I think the issue that's been brought up with both of these groups is finding individuals that fit the criteria of living in Lakewood. And I think that's where we would need more help in, and seeing if there's any like contact or events that are focused in Lakewood that would help us find individuals from these groups. So I kind of just wanted to open it up and ask. I think I see Mary Lee just sent me an email possibly of another contact. So thank you already for that. But if anyone knows, even for the LGBTQ, because I reached out to a few folks, but they haven't been super responsive yet. So I'm just waiting on those responses. But if anyone has anything, I would greatly appreciate all the help that we can get.
Laura, might we be able to open the floor a little bit for a discussion to see if people have contacts right now?
Absolutely. I'll stop sharing the screen and see if anybody has any thoughts. And then I think, Vanessa, if you can put your email in the chat, just so folks have it. Okay, so that's where we might need some help. Again, the challenge that Vanessa is highlighting there, and thank you all, is not necessarily finding individuals who identify with those groups, but really individuals who are also residents who identify with those groups. So we'll open the floor and see if there are any contacts or any ideas that folks may have for Vanessa.
I can go ahead and start and say that I do have a couple more contacts to send your way, Vanessa. One of my employees for the Window of Health program, which is connected to the Mexican Council. She is assigned to Northeast Ohio and doing outreach with the Latinx community. She spends her Saturdays at La Plaza, so she can help with a lot of community engagement and completion of the surveys. So I will send that information your way. Also, in regards to the LGBT community, my previous supervisor, he lives in Lakewood and would be able to assist with some contacts in Lakewood with the LGBT population, as well as maybe Golnar from the LGBT Center. She's one of my Cleveland Bridge Builders classmates, so she'll be another good contact.
Marilee, I wanted to make sure I said we've actually worked with Golnar on a previous project. What was it, last year? So we'll definitely try to reach out to Golnar.
Okay, perfect.
Vanessa, this is Trish from LCSC. I'm reasonably sure we can connect you with some LGBTQ clients of ours who I think they all live in Lakewood, and I can think of 2 or 3 off the top of my head that would be happy to participate. So if that's okay with you, I'll have our social workers reach out to them and see what their interest is. Or do you want me to send them to you?
Yeah, so that we can sign them up and give them more information. But yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Do we have any other suggestions before we move on?
I just wanted to note that Pastor Jessel had highlighted she has some contacts, so we'll follow up with you individually.
Okay, cool. Thank you all. That was very helpful. Okay, moving on, we'll bring the slides back up. Thank you so much, Lauren. And we will move to our next section, which is, I believe, action planning, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Thank you. And thanks everyone for your help so far. Obviously, you may have noticed that we started in a different place with Tanisha kicking us off today. You may see that from us for the remainder of the project occasionally. And the reason is I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Tanisha's work, to pull together all these different groups, to work with various stakeholders to get things scheduled and to pull it all together. I just wanted to make sure that she had an opportunity to, first of all, thank everyone for their help, but also to just provide her with that opportunity to demonstrate like how hard she's been working. And how we're going to be successful because of it. You know, the fact that we were able to do as much as we've done just within the last 4 weeks is it's pretty remarkable to me. So thank you, Tanisha, and thank you to everyone on our team and everyone here at the advisory committee who helped us pull together some of those meetings. So really do appreciate that. The next thing we'd like to do here today in our process is set the stage or set the foundation for the action plan. So if you remember, the whole point of this project was not just a community health needs assessment, but a community health needs assessment and an action plan. So it's something that our executive director likes to say. We're not just, you know, the Center for Admiring Problems, we're the Center for Community Solutions, right? So how do we translate the things that we're going to be hearing from the community through the survey, through focus groups, through key informant interviews, through the research that we're conducting, and translate into actionable items to move the city of Lakewood forward, to help address some of those challenges and opportunities that people have identified. So what we're outlining here is a general review of those concepts. We had a chance to discuss many of these points with the steering committee, and there was a lot of good feedback. We also may adopt something that was brought to us from Dave Boss, who's here. Thank you, Dave. Looks like you got a haircut since last time we saw you, Dave. Is that true? Looks good, if so.
Yes.
So how do we make these ideas actionable, right? I think it's one thing to say we want to solve housing insecurity in the city of Lakewood, but what does that mean? How do we understand what the opportunities are and how do we act on it? So it's a 3-phase approach, what we're discussing here. And what I'm going to say is that we need significant involvement from all of you. What you are likely going to see as we enter this phase closer to the fall, and you know, I can't believe we're already talking about the fall when it snowed last week, but we're talking about the fall, is potentially some increase in frequency of meetings, some greater participation in helping us identify these solutions. Let me just put out the charge this way. You know, one thing that we keep hearing from the city of Lakewood, and something that was said by Tony Gelsomino with the city, was that if you have any problem in the community, the first thing that you should do is talk to the residents because they have the answers. And you all are the body that represents that voice from the community. And it's alongside all of the work that we're doing to collect those voices through our work, through surveys, focus groups, and the like. But we're going to need you all to help us make decisions to understand what's truly important and how to make some priorities out of tasks. So we need a lot of your involvement to describe what that is. At the end, we'll have a final product, a final report, which will include a scorecard that identifies issues, potential interventions, recommendations, where appropriate, right? So there's 3 phases here. I'm about to review all 3 of these phases, and there's some videos that describe what some of these tools may look like. So at the end of all this, we would encourage you to provide us some feedback, ask us the questions that you may have. Feel free to put questions in the chat so that we can get to it as we need to. But this is our idea as is. Okay, so first of all, there's an internal process that the Center for Community Solutions staff would like to go through. What we'd like to do is get together as a group, look across all the different types of data we're collecting, from the stuff we learned through windshield surveys and the survey and the focus group and secondary and primary sources of data, to all the information we collect from the community. And we'll go through something called Affinity Diagram, which is taking all these ideas, taking all these different points of data and trying to find some categorical relationships. To explain what that looks like, I just ask you to take a look at this video to highlight what we mean when we say affinity diagramming, because it's important to understand how we get to this final product. Real quick, can you hear that? Good, okay.
Affinity Diagram is a tool that gathers large amounts of data, including ideas, opinions, concepts, and issues, then organizes them into groupings based on their natural relationships. This tool helps synthesize large amounts of data by finding relationships between ideas and can help support decision-making. Affinity Diagram is the organized output from a brainstorming session. Use Affinity Diagram to organize and consolidate information.
Uh-oh. That's no good. Hang on a second. Technical difficulty.
Issue or problem. After generating ideas, group them according to their affinity or similarity. From the chaos of randomly generated ideas comes insight to common threads, and from there, the best idea or solution often emerges. How do you put Affinity Diagram to work? First, identify the issue to be considered for improvement. Write it in concise and clear terms, about 3 to 7 words, placed on a flip chart for all to see. Next, brainstorm ideas that will address the issue identified for improvement. Keep in mind while brainstorming that the quantity of ideas is more important than the quality at this point. No judgment. Each person records 1 idea per post-it note. Be concise, express ideas in 3 to 5 words, and post on the wall randomly. Silently, team members should sort post-its into groupings that are related in some way. Post-it notes may move back and forth between groupings until the final 5 to 10 groupings begin to emerge. Ideas that don't naturally fit into any theme should be separated and set aside as standalone ideas. If some ideas fit into more than one theme, create a duplicate post-it note and place it into both groups. Finally, it's time to talk. Discuss each grouping and identify the main theme or idea of that grouping. Create a superheader for each of these. Remember to limit the total number of themes to between 5 and 9. Now that you have completed the Affinity Diagram, you are ready to continue on with your process improvement. For additional information, refer to the Lean Ohio Toolkit, which can be found at Lean.
Okay, so you get the basic idea here, right? We're going to have a day where we get together as community solutions, review all the data that we have, and try to create some common categorical types of all the different findings that we have, the relationships that exist, the themes that have emerged. From that, we will move into the second phase. So the second phase is much more external facing and will be where the majority of work takes place. So we will review the Affinity Diagram with both committees as a joint committee. The idea being here that we bring together both the advisory committee, you all, and the steering committee to have a joint session to discuss what the categories are, why we arrived where we did, and answer any questions that you have. We will then conduct a series of community brainstorming activities. So with community brainstorming, what we'd like to do is work with folks who are interested in charrettes. The idea being here that people will provide different ideas about how to address some of these big categorical challenges. We are thinking about conducting one of these sessions in person, where there'll be a day where there will be a physical space open for several hours where community members may weigh in, and then also doing something similar, a mirrored approach in a virtual format that will be open longer. So for example, it's on a Tuesday and there's a space open for the charrette with availability of some staff to answer questions and help people through the process. There will also be a concurrent virtual process where people can weigh in online to provide their ideas, their concepts, their notions of what change needs to look like. From that, we will collect all the data and then go through a process called prioritization. Okay, so we'll use a prioritization matrix and develop it with the advisory committee and the steering committee to help evaluate what ideas help address which issues and where is there the most amount of value achieved from the perspective of the committees and the community. So what does that look like? I'll show you a video here in a second, but the idea is the advisory committee helps define what the measures should be when it comes to ranking the ideas. Then the steering committee will further refine that, and then we will go through a process of scoring the various ideas. And usually what this may look like is something along the lines of cost. Is this cost effective? Is it feasible? Is it going to significantly address a particular issue like racial equity? And then once we get to that tool, we'll go into an actual scoring process with you all, and we'll discuss what that looks like. I'll also highlight here that in the steering committee process, Dave had highlighted a similar sort of tool and process that he used in his experience in the military that basically tries to understand and rank from a perspective of people implementing a process. Can we do this? Is it possible to do this? Do we have the resources? Does it require specific types of resources? We're going to be meeting internally to help further refine that, and it will influence a lot of what we're talking about. But to understand what a prioritization matrix looks like and what it's all about, I want to highlight this video. I should note that this video is instructive. It's demonstrative. It's not meant to be, this is what we will do exactly. It's meant to give you a concept of the type of thing that we're talking about when we get to this part of the process.
Hello friends, in the learning of 7 management and planning tools, so far we had seen 4 tools in the previous videos, that is Affinity Diagram, Relations Diagram, Tree Diagram and Matrix Diagram. If you want to see it in detail, you can visit the playlist by clicking this card. The next important management and planning tool, which I am going to explain in this video, is Prioritization Matrix. This is also called as a matrix data analysis. As the name indicates, this tool is helping us to prioritize activities or projects based on their importance. I am explaining this tool with its purpose and practical use by example. So let's begin. 5. The Prioritization Matrix. The Prioritization Matrix is a tool that sorts and ranks various options into an order of importance using weighted criteria. This technique helps us to identify which activities, problems or projects are the most important to work on solving first. A prioritization matrix graphically displays options and criteria in row and column format. Weights are assigned to each criteria. The matrix allows us to identify an item's relative importance by deriving a numerical value for its priority. This allows us to select and prioritize some options over the others. When to use the prioritization matrix? The prioritization matrix is used in following conditions. 1. There are multiple activities, problems or projects and we have to prioritize them. 2. To graphically display available options and criteria in row and column format. 3. To identify an item's relative importance by deriving a numerical value for its priority. And 4. For organizing projects or activities to maximize benefits to an organization. We will see this tool with example, so it will be very easy to understand. How to create the prioritization matrix with example. Let's see the various strategies or initiatives organization need to execute in the form of projects to improve profitability of an organization. An organization need to identify which activities, problems or projects are the most important to work on solving first. An organization then decide to use the prioritization matrix tool to identify an item's relative importance by deriving a numerical value for its priority. Let's see this exercise in steps. Step 1. All items in one group, that is, which need to be prioritized, are listed on one side of the chart, while those in other group, that is, results or impacts, on top of the chart and complete the table. In this example, strategies or initiatives organization need to execute are listed on one side of the chart and results or impacts on profitability listed on top of the chart and completed the table. Step 2. Each item at the top affecting the selection is given a weightage according to their importance in solving an issue. An importance rating is on the scale of 1 to 10. 1 means less important and 10 means most important. In this example, we can give an importance rating of 6 for reduced cost of poor quality, whereas importance rating of 10 for improve market share. In similar way, we have given importance rating to all remaining items at the top. Step 3. Each square in the matrix is assigned a score according to the strength of relationship. The association score are limited to 0, 1, 3 and 9 to represent no relationship, weak relationship, moderate relationship and strong relationship respectively. In this example, an association score of improved accuracy of bill of material with reduced cost of poor quality is 0, which is for reduced inventory is 9, with improved market share it is 1 and with improved productivity it is 3. In similar way, we have to complete scoring of all elements in the table. Step 4. Calculate the weighted score for each items. This is obtained by sum of multiplying importance rating and association scores of each row. In this example, the weighted score for reduced pump failures will be equal to sum of multiplication of importance rating and association score in its row. That is 6 into 9 for reduced cost of poor quality plus 6 into 1 for reduced inventory plus 10 into 3 for improved market share plus 8 into 0 for retained talent and plus 7 into 1 for improved productivity, which is equal to weighted score of 97. Step 5. The prioritization matrix is then sorted out by weighted score to define priorities in activities, projects or problems to be solved first. In this example, the weighted score for reduced attrition rate is maximum, that is 159, and therefore organization need to start immediate activities or projects related to reduce attrition rate. If you are having multiple teams to work on issues, we can allot projects of reduce casting rejection and reduce product development time to other two teams. The long-term benefit of this prioritization matrix is that it clearly defines what the next priorities in queue are once we finish the current one. This is all about the prioritization matrix. For references, in addition to my
Okay. So I know that that can be a little bit heady, but let me just sort of restate the purpose. We need to be able to capture how important or what the priorities should be when we come up with different ideas related to the challenges that are facing the community. In something like food insecurity, there are probably a number of ideas that the community will offer to improve the status of those who are food insecure or to improve the food insecurity resources to help Lakewood residents become more food secure, to help them address any issues that are associated with food insecurity. But the challenge will be not every idea may fit into what's feasible or may not be readily implementable or may not have resources available to be able to effectuate whatever project idea there may be. So we need to go through a process where you all help identify what those key categories of evaluation are, and then help us understand what the refined understanding of how we feel about any particular measure may be, so that when we are thinking about all the ideas in totality, we have some sort of ranking to say, yeah, these priorities are important and they are consistent with the values that the community has put forward as being how we should understand which projects should have priority. So that's the point of this process. It's going to take a lot of conversation. It's going to take a lot of education, and it's going to change over time and evolve over time before we ever get to this point. But we wanted to make sure that we highlighted this for you, that we had a chance to show you what this looked like, so you had some sense of the direction that we are taking this. Okay. Last bit here in terms of phases. So the last phase, we're going to collate and rank all of the results. So after we have the priorities identified and different concepts established, we're going to try to develop some sort of scorecard that aligns with each of the categories we identify through the affinity diagramming process and say, here's what the priorities are, and here are some considerations. So those interventions, those programs, those concepts will be ranked, and then we'll also include additional detail. So if, for example, there's one particular idea that emerges as a top priority, and another city is already implementing it in some other way, we'll highlight some of those resources. Or if there's some sort of policy that is put forward, or if there's some sort of existing activity that the city of Lakewood is doing and needs to follow through on or needs to continue, we're going to try to highlight that. For every priority, there may not be some equal one-to-one sort of notion available, but where possible, we'll try to include some information, other ways to support action through existing or potential activities. And that will comprise the final action plan. So we're going to use the community health needs assessment to get the data that we need to understand what's going on, what are the opportunities, and a report will summarize some of that work. When we transition to the action plan, it's going to be a combination of understanding, so what are we going to do about it? What are the ideas from the community, right? What are the answers that the residents have for us? How do we evaluate what some of those answers may mean in terms of actually being able to implement? And then we're going to have a final report that outlines our best thinking as a group in terms of what should be prioritized and where we can draw from in terms of inspiration, models, so on and so forth. So that's in general where we are in terms of the action plan. Before we get to next steps, I want to pause here for a second. I see we have a couple of things in the chat, so I just want to check. Affinity Diagram can be done electronically as well. I believe Google has a version. That's true. Affinity Diagram is also in Teams, and then we have some tools here at Community Solutions that we can use to do Affinity Diagramming to execute a lot of the types of things that we're talking about. So we'll have some tools available virtually and in person to be able to make that work. And then also someone mentioned, can this be sent to us for review again? Yes, it can. Don't forget, every one of our advisory committee meetings is recorded and the minutes are posted online. So if you ever want to go back to our material, you can always check it out there. I'll make sure to follow up the group with a copy of our recording just so you have easy access to it. Okay, I'll take a breath. See, are there any questions from members of the committee about this process or any thoughts or feedback?
Lauren, this is Trish. I have a question.
Sure.
Can you go back to the shared slides, not the last one in this last segment, but the one before that lists out who does what? No, before, okay, go back. Okay, back again. Okay, there. Help me understand in the third bullet, the advisory committee rank orders measures. Can you tell me, just explain to me, what's the difference between what's measures versus priorities? I'm just, sorry, a little bit confused in the language.
No, that's good. And
It's
here's the thing.
Unusual.
with a lot of this stuff, you know, it's unpacking some of this, right? So the priorities are the things that the community will identify, meaning, let's take housing, for example. If housing is one of the categories that we identified, I'm being general here. We don't have predetermined answers yet, right? We're waiting to get the community feedback, but let's say it's housing. And then we go through our process of charrettes with the community to brainstorm ideas about what are some things that need to happen to address these issues and these specific data points. And the community offers, 50 really good ideas that, we can say these are the top 50 ideas. Those would be the priorities, basically. Those would be the different measures or interventions that could take place, the strategies or initiatives if you're looking at this chart. So you'd see all the community ideas in one big list. The measures would be these pieces, basically coming up with ways that we should evaluate those ideas, and they should contemplate, and I don't want to sort of predispose this group to naming which measures there should be, but things like cost or feasibility or is it resource intensive? Is it going to have an impact on racial equity? Does it address a major social determinant? Whatever that may be. So this group will come together and identify, here are some of the major measures that we're thinking about, that we're taking a look at. And then we'll work with the steering committee to try to consolidate those into at least 5 options, maybe more than that, depending on what our engagement looks like, and say, okay, so what are the main ways we should look at any particular project? Now, the one tool the steering committee had mentioned, and Dave had mentioned, was, bringing in some ideas around, do you need a facility? Do you have resources available? Is there enough in terms of people power to get the project done? That sort of thing. I think we'll blend some of that in as we move forward. We have some time before we really establish this, but that's the difference between priorities and measures. Priorities are what the community tells us. The measures are ways to understand, evaluate, and prioritize those ideas. Does that help?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Like I said, this is just an introduction. I would also say, if you have any questions about this, if you have any major concerns about this, feel free to email any of us directly. Also, feel free to just bring it up at our next meeting. we have time before we have to go through this process, right? The next couple of months for us are all about finalizing the assessment work, going through the data, sharing that information with you, working with us to make sure that we complete that assessment faithfully. So we have some time before we have to really solidify our approach here. But we thought that, now is a good time to establish what we would like to accomplish through an action plan, how we believe we're going to carry it out, and represent community voice. So if there are any additional questions, concerns, suggestions for us, we're all takers, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity to do that as we go through this process. Okay. All right. So some next steps here. We're going to continue our survey engagement work. Between our last meeting and this meeting, we've had a lot of work done. And I again, want to highlight the work that Tanisha's done, also the work that Alex and Emily Matillo have done to get the survey out there, to get it from the community. I know Alex is going to have to do a lot of cutting and scanning here in the near future to get those results together. But we may come back to all of you. If you remember, one of the things that we stated was that the community meetings, which we are planning for in June, may have opportunities to do different types of focus groups that we see as being potential gap areas from the survey process. So for example, in our survey process, if we're not hearing enough from older adults, and just throwing that out there as just an example, then we might create an opportunity or room or a table when we go through our community meeting where we're going to say, hey, if you identify, if you're an adult over 60, we'd like to talk to you in this smaller group setting so that we can get some more information about how you perceive Lakewood and its health and wellness. Okay, so we're going to come back to you next month, continue to refine that, ask for your help in promoting the community meetings, and then also helping us think through who else should we target in that work. We're also going to finalize our windshield survey. So we did the bus tour and it was really great. I want to thank Dave and the folks at the City of Lakewood for taking us around the city to show us various assets that the city has. We got a chance to take a look at Cove Community Center if you haven't had a chance. It's a wonderful facility and location and resource for the community. We will be breaking out into teams and going through our own sort of like informal process of getting to know the City of Lakewood a little bit better. I think it's important whenever we engage in this work, especially because many of us are not residents, we need to feel Lakewood as much as we understand it or evaluate it. So this is to help us with that process. Our next meeting is on May 25th. One thing I would say, we are going to give you a new Zoom link. That's just something procedural on our end. You will not get it's not going to be any confusion around different times. It's still same bat time, same bat channel. You're just getting a new link, and the new link is still going to be Zoom. And the reason for it is just to make things administratively simple on our end so that we can continue to conduct these meetings. So when you see that, you may see like your meeting has been updated or your meeting has been canceled and here's a new meeting. Just accept it in terms of like press the accept button. Don't just deal with it. If you have questions, feel free to reach back out to us. Let us know if you have any challenges with that. We'll be monitoring too who accepts and who does not, but we'll follow up in an email and let you know that this is happening. So our next meeting is on May 25th. We'll have more information for you in terms of the survey and the assessment process and the engagement process. But that's it. So that's it. That's everything we wanted to share with you here today. I want to stop the sort of formal presentation part, see if anyone had any questions, concerns, thoughts, things they would like to bring up with the group.
Lauren, I just wanted to make sure that I publicly said thank you to Vanessa, Rebecca, and Natasha. They've been super duper helpful in helping me plan the focus groups. I wanted to make it clear that I was not doing this single-handedly. So thank you, ladies, so much. You've been a great help, and I would like everyone to know that. Thank you.
Yeah, here. Thank you, Natasha, Vanessa, Rebecca, and Tanisha for all that work. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, well, we will be back on May 25th. You'll find a recording of this soon. We will follow up with an email. I'll work with you, Tanisha, on like the link and everything, because I know we'll do it procedurally through that appointment, but also I'll send it out. So we'll send you a new link for the meetings. We'll give you a link to the recording. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, thank you for your time and attention again today, and for all your help so far. I think this is, so far, the process is going really well, and that's all a credit to your hard work. So thank you for all of that work. And yeah, you can cut out early. We will see you on the 25th. Have a good rest of your week.